conference title is still in reach for Creighton. They need some help, but they can get there. But they have to do their part as well, and that starts at St. John's on Saturday.
You're listening to the Bluejay Breakdown.
Welcome back into Bluejay Breakdown. Anna and Jacob joining you now. Starting on the women's sides for Creighton Hoops, a 20-4 team, back in the AP polls, first time since the preseason poll at number 24. Now, Jacob, what has this team clicking? What has this team on a roll right now in your eyes?
Continuing to play their style of basketball. A big part of it was the defense last week. They held third place Villanova to 35.5% from the field in a 72-56 win. And that's kind of one of the things that has come and gone for this team is the commitment and consistency on defense. So you add that to the firepower they have, and that's how you get a win. So also Lauren Jensen, in her last 4 games since that UConn game where she struggled a little bit, 21 points a game on over 50% from the field, 16 of 28 from 3 with 13 assists and just 4 turnovers. So like I said, you got the firepower and someone like Jensen at the top of your team, and then you put in a good defensive effort and you're sitting at 12-1 in Big East play. Especially
when you throw in a player like Molly Mogensen, when she can do the things that she's shown us, dropping 20-plus points. And we know that we haven't seen that production all year long, but it's starting to show throughout conference play. What have been some of the catalysts in your minds to the offense, including Mogensen in her play?
Well, I think the key to this team is you have players that can step up, even if not everybody is consistent around the big two. We talk about Mogensen, who had been on a tear lately, ended up going 0 for 8 from the field, did not score in that Seton Hall game, yet the bench picked her up. They got 22 points off the bench without Kennedy Townsend scoring, who is the leading scorer off that bench. That's largely because they got a big game out of, 32 points, not 22 off the bench. They got 17 points out of Jamie Hurrdat. So back-to-back scoring or double-digit scoring games for the first time in her career. So she's coming alive here at the end of her career. You got 10 points and 7 boards out of Brooke Luttrell. And so that's kind of been the key to this team is you never quite know who it's going to be. You know it's going to be Jensen and Molly almost every single night. It's, all right, who else is it going to be? And they've had enough firepower this season to get to this point where whether it is Mogensen, who's been the most consistent third scorer, or it's been Keani Lockett, it's been Mallory Brake at times. And then you've got players off the bench like Townsend and Luttrell and Hurrdat now coming alive as well.
And it's interesting, Jacob, because you mentioned the Seton Hall win, 32 bench points, and then only 8 bench points in the win over Villanova. So it was a different type of formula for this team. And it was Molly Mogensen stepping up with 23, and then, of course, LJ with 25. So they've won in both ways, and I think that's also an interesting perspective on this team, that they can hurt you in different ways, whether it be the bench or their starting 5.
Yeah, you got double doubles out of Morgan Molly both games last week, 16 and 10 against Seton Hall, 23 and 10, despite shooting or struggling from 3 against Villanova in that 70-57 win. And they got 12 out of Mogensen bouncing back. So it really, again, is just kind of the ability of this team to have different players step up. And coming off a bad one, Mogensen steps up. Hurrdat had carried the load the previous 2 games. They didn't get that kind of bench spark in this one. So the Stars combined for 48 points and led the way. So that's what we've been seeing all season long from this team.
So looking at the defense of this team, it's something that Flannery has really challenged with this group of they need to get better at. They're 9th in the Big East in scoring defense, allow around 64 points per game. How have you seen that continue to evolve? Do you feel like Jim is happy with where that defense is right now?
I think he's probably happy with how they performed on that end last week. Again, I think the consistency of it is the thing that he's been harping on throughout, even in wins when even like you look at the final score, and it maybe not like they didn't give up 80 points or anything, but there were just stretches where they struggled. And the problem with this team is it is a little lacking. It is you can run into some tough matchups just because of the lack of size, lack of rim protection. So if you do make a mistake, there's not really somebody waiting at the rim to make up for it. So they have to be kind of tight on their attention to detail. They've got to be on point throughout. Everybody's got to be working hard, rotating correctly, and playing together in order to get it done. So, and that's hard to do every game in a long season. But the key is that they've been able to step up down the stretch in some of these big games to make those key stops. We've seen a few games where maybe they struggled at stretches, really turn it up to close out the game. So yeah, it's got to be a total team effort. Everybody's got to be doing their job on every possession to get the results they want.
All right, well, looking ahead against Georgetown, it's also senior day, an early senior day for this team. And I mean, there's only 3 home games left to see this incredible group of seniors that have truly changed the foundation and the trajectory of what this Creighton women's team can be and accomplish with their March Madness runs. And just starting, though, with that Georgetown matchup, what stands out? Obviously, a Georgetown team that went to the Big East tournament title matchup last year against UConn. And they have Kelsey Ransom back, who's almost averaging 20 points per game. What are the biggest challenges of that matchup?
Yeah, they won 84-70 not too long ago, and just at the end of last month here. So another kind of quick rematch. Ransom scored 20 in that first one, but it took her 20 field goal attempts and 3 free throw attempts. So they made her a volume scorer. I think you'll live with that if you're Jim Flannery. Just make her use a ton of possessions to get her points. And they did a good job on Georgetown's posts. Ariel, yeah, I forgot her name. But yeah, they did a good job on her in that matchup. And I think that was the key for them to be able to kind of control that game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's like you said, it's only a few chances left to see these seniors. I'd encourage Creighton fans to get out there to Sokol Arena, pack that place, show them your appreciation for everything that they've done for the program and for the fan base over the past 5 years now.
Yeah, it's been incredible. And not many programs have that, of people that stay 5 years and make such an impact and want to come back for their final season. So pretty special stuff. Jacob, let's flip over now to the men's basketball side, and an exciting finish last night in Omaha. It was a close one, a 4-point loss to UConn. I mean, this UConn team needed to win badly, and they showed it. Liam McNeely was a huge factor in this matchup. Second chance points were a huge factor for UConn. Defensively, there were miscues on the Creighton side, but what would you point to most in where this game got away from the Blue Jays?
Yeah, I think Greg McDermott said it best in his opening statement, just the missed opportunities, and they showed up in a lot of different areas. I think that the key one is offensive rebounding for UConn. 13-0 edge in second chance points in a 4-point game. That is huge there, because Creighton had a terrible day offensively, but they still made UConn less efficient. They still outshot UConn from the field and from three. And from the free throw line. The difference is UConn got more shots because of turnovers and offensive rebounds. And Creighton actually won the points off turnovers battle. So you can live with giving up 4 extra turnovers there because they got stops on those possessions. But offensive rebounds, they gave up 12 of them, and UConn converted those into 13 points. And there were some key ones, just guys missing box outs, guys had the ball in their hands and couldn't secure it at multiple points, with UConn continuing to pursue it and knock it free. And so that's a big one. And then I think they obviously missed some shots that they had. I mean, Ashworth had a 3 for the lead, circled the rim and pop out late. Saw his streak of 3-pointers made, or games with the 3-pointer made, end in that one, and also saw his free throw streak end. He missed the front end of the bonus. Finished 11 for 12 in the game, so still made a ton, got there a lot, but just another missed opportunity there. A guy doing something that he hasn't done throughout this winning streak and for a very long time this season. And then kind of the final missed opportunity is they weren't able to play through Kalkbrenner to the degree that they had during the 9-game winning streak, which That was a program record for since joining the Big East. They reached their with the wins over Providence and Marquette heading into this one. And Kalkbrenner averaged almost 23 points a game on over 60% shooting during that stretch. He had been an absolute force. And in this one, he only got 9 shot attempts, only scored 13 points, did have 3 assists and only 1 turnover. But they just, UConn did a great job with their length and their backside help of deterring him. And Creighton just didn't execute well enough to get him the ball. Like they had Kalkbrenner had their bigs in foul trouble. Kalkbrenner and the whole team actually, because Ashworth drew a few of those fouls. But both their centers drew 4 fouls and played a combined 27 minutes. So they had about 13 minutes in that game playing small ball with Caravan or Jalen Stewart, who were 6'8", 6'7" at the 5 and trying to guard Kalkbrenner. And Creighton just couldn't capitalize on it. And that's something that, again, early in the season, we saw that during their struggles. And they had really solved that during this winning streak because he had been absolute force. And they weren't able to capitalize on the mismatches there in this one, and they came up just a bit short because of it.
When you look at that win against Marquette, I still want to touch on that because obviously we hadn't in the previous pod, but what was the biggest factor in that matchup to beat a Golden Eagles team and find that success on offense again? What would you point to most in that win?
Jemiah Neal absolutely took over down the stretch. You go back to the first Marquette game, and he picked up his second foul late in the first half with like 2 minutes and change left, had to sit down. And that's when Marquette went on their 12-0 run to end the half, and then kind of continued that momentum into the second half, and Creighton never quite recovered. He picked up 2 fouls late in the first half in this one, picked up a third early, then picked up a fourth. He only ended up playing 10 minutes in the second half. But when he came back out, he absolutely took over the game. In his 10 minutes on the floor in the second half, Creighton outscored Marquette by 17 points. He led the team with 10 points in the second half, had a big assist on a Kalkbrenner 3, just made some huge plays down the stretch. Hit a step back 3 of his own, hit a catch and shoot 3, hit a tough little baseline midi. So he just got in there, and he said, they talked about he was fresh from sitting, having to watch the game, and he said he felt the kind of momentum shifting. Marquette made their run, so he felt like it was Creighton's turn to respond, and he said, why not me? So he went out and made the plays. So he was the key in them being able to close that out. You got typical big nights from Ashworth, 22 points, 6 threes, including the dagger one and the night celly. I think the fans enjoyed that one. Kalkbrenner had 19 points, only missed 1 shot, hit that clutch 3 down the stretch as Creighton was kind of pulling away, had 4 blocks. But I mean, another key was Jasen Green, who played 32 minutes against Villanova guarding Eric Dixon, only played like 12 or 13 minutes against Providence just because the matchups weren't right. He wasn't able to kind of make an impact. And then McDermott went right back to him against Marquette. He had played 33 minutes, had 8.7 rebounds, 2 blocks, and assists and a turnover. So not only kind of the defensive effort, he was producing in the box score as well. And then he took the Cam Jones assignment down the stretch. And Cam Jones, if Kalkbrenner's not the Big East Player of the Year, Cam Jones probably would be. He had 27 in that one. Creighton didn't really have an answer for him, especially with Neal's foul trouble. But Jasen kind of switched on to him down the stretch and did a really good job and forced him into some tough looks and kind of slowed him down. So Jasen Green was a huge key to that game. And then he played well against, he carried that over into the St. John's or into the UConn game. He came by, they had some big buckets there as well. So good to see that kind of production out of him against some of the best teams on Creighton's schedule.
And Jasen's obviously a fun story being a hometown kid, but I think it is interesting. I felt like in this UConn matchup, he was kind of hunting for a shot a little bit more. Yeah. Like he was being aggressive. He was backing down on the defense. Do you think that's something Jasen Green will evolve into more as a player on this team?
Yeah, probably not so much on this team. I think what he's done is become really good at kind of opportunistic scoring, realizing, all right, I've got a mismatch here. All right, somebody's in foul trouble, or like it's Stephen Ashworth picked up his second foul and had to sit down. And I think that next possession, Jasen kind of shot clock winded down. So he just like, I got to go to work, kind of back down, got in the lane and hit a little turnaround jump shot, which isn't something you see a ton out of him. But it's like he was a post scorer in high school, and we see them occasionally with the duck ins when he gets a smaller guy on him running the floor. He had a great play where blocked a shot and then sprinted the floor and got it back for a layup in the UConn game there. So he's not a guy that's going to go out there and call his own number a ton, but he's gotten really good about finding where he can fit in around the other guys on this team that are going to be the ones taking the majority of the shots.
Yeah. Let's look ahead to number 9, St. John's on Saturday. It's been a gauntlet of a schedule for Greg McDermott and company in the Big East, playing UConn, St. John's, and of course that Marquette game. I don't know if anyone would expect this team to go 3-0 against those teams. Obviously, they can't do that 1-1 so far, but a huge opportunity at St. John's that came down to the wire in Omaha, just a 1-point win that ended up in a defensive stand for Creighton. But biggest keys in your eyes for this St. John's matchup, especially one that you have to play at their place?
Yeah, and one key is the fact that they get 4 days off here. McDermott talked about kind of their running on empty a few games ago against Marquette, and then quick turnaround. They got a day off, or they had a walkthrough, then they had one practice, and they were back on the court from Saturday to the Tuesday turnaround there. Chance to kind of rest, get healthy. Some of the guys are dealing with an illness. I mean, you could even hear Kalkbrenner coughing quite a bit throughout the post-game press conference. And so it'd be, I think, huge to get those guys a chance to take a day off and then get in some mental work and try to get healthier and rested. And then they get a whole, basically the next week off after that before they play again. So big one. Obviously, they're 2 games back of St. John's now in the conference standings. To keep their hopes at a conference title alive, they got to go win this one. And they need a little bit of help. You see, St. John's has a few tough games left. They're, as we record this on Wednesday, they've got Villanova, or they're at Villanova's place. They're at home against UConn, and then they close out the regular season at Marquette. So conference title is still in reach for Creighton. They need some help, but they can get there. But they have to do their part as well, and that starts at St. John's on Saturday. Obviously, Creighton got the win in Omaha, but that was an absolute grinder, 57-56. Creighton survived at the buzzer there on a St. John's miss. St. John's is second in defense in the country at this point. 14th in forcing turnovers, 5th in defending 2-point shots. They're only 84th in offense because they cannot shoot the 3 at all. They're 29%, 347th in the country, but they're 13th in offensive rebounding. So limiting turnovers and limiting second chance points. Those are going to be the key. Creighton actually didn't do great in those areas in the first one. They had 19 turnovers, and they gave up quite a few second chance points, but they did just enough to get away with it because they defended St. John's really well. R.J. Lewis is the main guy, almost 18 points a game. He'll be an all Big East first teamer. Zuby Ejiofor, 4 offensive rebounds a game, 14 points a game. And then Kadari Richmond's kind of coming on. Obviously, the Seton Hall transfer of Creighton seen several times before. 12 points, 6 boards, 5 assists a game. So he's a tough matchup. So it's going to be the key. They're going to have to really limit those extra possession opportunities for St. John's.
Well, there will be plenty to discuss when we talk to you guys next time on Bluejay Breakdown. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you then.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.